God and God's Son Jesus Christ bless you all. Being Christian do not mean to be ignorant and uninformed. Information is power, information is help and guidance. A good radical said. Obama's full-blown, year-end temper tantrum written by Liz Peek. Just listen. Let's be honest, President Obama is throwing a good old-fashioned foot-stomping world-class temper tantrum. He is just beside himself that the stupid American voter elected Donald Trump. How could the country willfully dismiss the erudite recommendation of nearly every news organization in the nation, as well as Obama's personal plea that not electing Hillary would be a personal insult to him? How could young people not respond to Obama's call to bend the arc of history in a better direction? It is beyond comprehension. But it happened, and Obama is having an extremely difficult time dealing with what may be his first ever serious setback. This is a man described by his closest advisor, Valerie Jarrett, as just too talented to do what ordinary people do. More flattering, Jarrett noted that I think Barack knew that he had God-given talents that were extraordinary. He knows exactly how smart he is. He is so smart, said Jarrett, that he's been bored to death his whole life. Very few people surround themselves with people capable of such uncompromising adoration. It isn't healthy. But Obama is different. He has been told over and over, even by the Nobel Committee that awarded him their coveted Peace Prize on spec, that he is extraordinary. So when a man like the Donald bests him, a man Obama clearly considers a joke, he is undone. That is certainly the way he is behaving. Not for Obama the normal gracious withdrawal into political stasis, no. He wants to prove in these waning weeks of his presidency that he was right all along. That his agenda is what the people want, even if they don't know it. That putting America's valuable natural resources permanently off limits is the correct thing to do, because only Obama can see the future. That taking over vast swatches of the West is in the best interests of the reluctant residents there, because only Obama will protect our environment. That publicly confronting Russia for cyber misbehavior after years of looking the other way is called for, even if it complicates diplomacy in a number of theaters. Because Obama knows best. He also knows what is best for Israelis. Upending long-standing tradition, he has allowed our only true ally, and the only democracy in the Middle East, to be further isolated and compromised, in the interests, we are told, of seeking a meaningful peace. The reality is that Obama fully expected that by dint of his winning personality, superior insight, and sympathy for the Muslim people, to conquer the divides in that region. He was shocked that his Cairo speech did not cause the waters to part, and the wounds to heal. And he is angry that, in his mind, Bibi Netanyahu has stood between him and fulfilling this key legacy achievement. As he revealed in 2010 to an interviewer with Time magazine, getting peace in the Middle East is just really hard. Notably, this came as a surprise. Make no mistake, we do need to rein in Russian misbehavior. Putin is a dangerous adversary and should never have been allowed out of the penalty box inflicted by drooping oil prices. But, Obama gave him running room by putting him in charge of the Syrian debacle and making him a key figure in the Iran nuke deal. So important were those quests to Obama that our president chose to ignore Moscow's serial aggressions and misbehavior. Indeed, after the conclusion of the Iran Accord, Obama called Putin to thank him for his help. Is it any wonder that an emboldened Putin felt he could act out his hostility to Hillary Clinton? Obama is having a difficult time passing the baton, because he thinks the baton should be his in perpetuity. Unlike most of his predecessors, Obama intends to stay involved in his party's politics, and to continue living in the nation's capital, better to keep his finger on the pulse. Whether Democrats want him involved, since after 8 years of his leadership the party's pulse is barely discernible, remains to be seen. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin has once again outfoxed President Obama. His response to Obama's eviction of 35 diplomats and other grave-sounding but ultimately unimportant retaliatory measures. Instead of engaging in traditional diplomatic tit-for-tat, the Russian leader has invited the children of U.S. diplomats to the Kremlin for a holiday party. Who looks like the adult in the room? Nicely said. But in the other hand, Obama the king elite. Do what kings do. Because is not their money. Not their time and energy, not their life. As Israel prospers, Obama is set to give billions more in aid while Netanyahu demands even more for all the chatter about animosity between U.S. President Barack Obama and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The Washington Post reports that a senior Israeli official will arrive in Washington next week for a final round of negotiations involving the largest military aid package the United States has ever given any country, and that will last more than a decade after President Obama leaves office. The U.S. already transfers $3.1 billion in taxpayer money every year to Israel, more than any other country by far, but the new agreement Obama is set to sign significantly raises that amount, and guarantees it for 10 years. In response to this massive windfall, Netanyahu is angry that he is not getting even more. For some time, Netanyahu was holding out for as much as $5 billion a year. Also, Israel has been opposed to efforts to direct more of that aid to U.S. military contractors rather than Israeli ones, so this aid package is as much a transfer of U.S. taxpayer money to weapons manufacturers in both countries as it is to Israel itself. Moreover, Israelis are also said to be displeased with the U.S. position that whatever amount of money they agree on will be final, and that Israel will not go to Congress requesting more money. Usually, when someone hands you billions of dollars in aid, you're not in much of a position to demand more. But the rules for Israel when it comes to U.S. policy, as is so often the case, are simply different. Even as Israel has aggressively expanded settlements of the West Bank, often in a way designed to most humiliate the U.S., and slaughtered civilians in Gaza, U.S. aid simply increases more and more. What's particularly fascinating about all of this is that Netanyahu originally intended to wait until the next administration to finalize the deal because, assuming that would be Hillary Clinton, he believed, with good reason, he would get an even better deal, but is now worried about an unpredictable Donald Trump, who has spouted standard pro-Israel rhetoric before AIPAC, and worse, but had previously espoused the need for neutrality on the Israel-Palestine question and has made America first the rhetorical centerpiece of his campaign. All of this means that the U.S. generally, and Democrats specifically, bear direct responsibility for the hideous brutality and oppression imposed by Israel on Palestinians through decades of occupation. That's because, as a 2012 Congressional Resources Service report documented, almost all U.S. aid to Israel is in the form of military assistance. U.S. military aid has helped transform Israel's armed forces into one of the most technologically sophisticated militaries in the world. U.S. military aid for Israel has been designed to maintain Israel's qualitative military edge over neighboring militaries. And, of course, Clinton herself vowed in a letter to Democratic Party billionaire funder Haim Saban and her speech to AIPAC to do everything possible to oppose a boycott of Israel in order to end the occupation. What's perhaps most shocking of all is how little attention or debate any of this receives. Would Americans really be supportive of transferring billions of dollars every year to Israel, and then entering into a new agreement to significantly increase that amount and guaranteeing it, placing it beyond debate for 10 more years? That seems doubtful. To begin with, Israel enjoys universal health care coverage, while 33 million Americans, 10.4% of the U.S. population, remain without health insurance. That disparity is captured in headlines such as this one. As The Forward put it in 2012, Israeli citizens appear to be getting better care than Americans for their lower expenditures. Fortunately for Israel, the people of that country enjoy a much higher life expectancy than the citizens of the country that transfers billions to them every year. According to the most recent CIA statistics, Israelis can expect to live 82.27 years, 11th best in the world, while Americans can expect only 79.68 years, which is 43rd in the world. Israeli infants also fare much better than American infants. Israel has one of the lowest infant mortality rates in the world, 3.55 deaths for every 1,000 births, while 5.87 American babies die for every 1,000 births. Just last month, unemployment in Israel fell to the lowest level in decades, 4.8%, which is not only low historically but low by international standards, and by conventional economic definitions there's no unemployment at all in Israel, while U.S. workers, despite declining